but we are all curious about, you know, the strategy and actually the nitty-gritty of how. I think that now we are streaming on Facebook. We're streaming all the time. Okay, I trust that we have been streaming all the time, but we believe in the team spirit, and that you, as the team behind Wardruna, you have the skills, the experience, and the networks, and we know that you are combined. What is the method and how you actually are able to make at this time Wardruna to stardom, but how do you actually do it? And I know that we will know more after this next hour. I'm really excited about today's session. It is a band that we know, but we still a little bit don't know it. It is at least, you know, it's a black metal, Viking metal. I don't know what you actually call it even, and or if it's allowed to call it Viking metal, but you will know and you will explain this to us. And Simon Fullman, you have quite an interesting story yourself, and we published actually an industry talk with you yesterday on our Music Norway website. You have worked close with Einar Selvik and Wardruna for many years. You will be today's moderator as well, and you have brought Margit and Dirk from your team with you. But you have said something that it's the mix of key factors and hard work over many years that led Wardruna to a worldwide success, with impressive chart placements as well as sync licensing in popular TV shows and games. And I trust that this is some of the stories that you will share together with how you actually accessed both the Norwegian metal scene from where you were born and how was your like sort of way into this. So Simon, I will give the floor to you. Enjoy, people. Looking forward to it, and see you next Thursday here, 10 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Kathrine. Long time no see. I'm clicking on, I'm putting in the presentation that we're starting now, so I can get some words. So, before we start this webinar, it's exactly what Kathrine said. We're going to look into what makes Wardruna a successful band, because it's such a different entity. For those who also watched Another Morning Coffees, it's totally different from a pop artist. It's the whole approach to the project Raduna is something very unique. And that's what we're going to show in this presentation. And I'm very happy to have Dirk with me and Margit from the team, from the worldwide team that we gathered over the years, basically, to make a success story for Wardruna. For my person, so people understand where I'm coming from, I lived in Norway for 6 years, and I was always a huge fan of Nordic music, and my interest started in the 90s. Actually, I worked at the beginning from the 90s with young Eva Björnsson and Enslaved, and was a fan of Gorgoroth and everything Einar did by the end of the 90s, until he basically disappeared from everywhere to do his thing with Wardruna, which was around 2003. And I didn't really hear of him until the record came out in 2009, the first Wardruna record. And in 2010, I moved to Norway, and I was starting working with Indie Recordings, a very cool and very famous label from Norway, where I started to become close acquaintance with Einar, because I started working on the second album that came out in 2013. We started to get to know each other, and to my surprise, it was not a surprise, but we found a very good connection between us. We found out that on a personal level, that it works really well. And on a business level, we understood that what it needs to be working together is there. So we all have our field of expertise. And that's where it all started out. So we slowly really moved on the same ground and started working this project. At the beginning, it was all about Einar Selvik. It was his vision, it was his thoughts and his decision to do Wardruna. In 2003, basically, he decided to start doing this full time, and it took him 6 years until the first album came out. And when the first album came out, I was very impressed because it was so different. It was still rooted where he came from, but it totally led somewhere else. And what I liked most is he gave meaning to things. It was very deep. It was very rooted. It was very real. And that's what I liked about Wardruna a lot. I was honestly never a big fan of, let's say, an example, Kiss. I'm not a fan of these bombastic bands. I'm more personally a fan of honest music, honest to the ground music. And that's what attracted me to Wardruna. So the first time we came into it, everything started with a vision. And those words I will never forget that Einar said, which were so different than most people I met when I worked at different labels, which are like, you know, I want to be a big band, I want to play there, I want to be that. He had a total different vision on things. He had a different approach. He wasn't really looking after fame or getting big. He just wanted to do his thing and being real. So that impressed me a lot because when we were at the beginning, it was for him, I basically came to the team, and it's funny to see that most people who are in the ensemble of Wardruna or around making sound or light, they're there since the beginning. So since 2009. So it's a very close family and very, very close-knit family of friends that are building Wardruna. So for me, it was an honor to come in and to be on the level to understand what he means with it. Even though I come from a different country, what he spoke of really spoke a lot to me, which is roots and finding your own identity and who are you and where are you home and what is your culture you carry within. So the vision he proposed when we started working and said, like, this is what we want to do, changed a lot of things on my perception on how I worked before at labels or managed bands. And I was immediately fascinated. So by the beginning, when Einar started out, I was basically following from the sideline from a label perspective. And it was very interesting to see that the way he looked at things, and you have to understand in my eyes, if you have an artist like Einar Selvik and Wardruna and Lindy Fye and everybody who plays in the band and has such a strong vision, it's a gift for a manager to start working with such a group. Because the defined way of how he built his identity, how much time he invested to build the identity from the beginning, is a big part of why the band is so successful now. Because it's very clear, it's very to the point, it's very understandable for a lot of people, and still has mystery in it for people enough to dive into it and to start finding out what is behind Wardruna. So I wrote down some key points that really made basically the band at the beginning is, Einar came to me and said, look, Simon, we need to be patient. This is not a pop music where we put out one song and then probably it sticks and we're going to be the next aha. It's going to be Wardruna. We're building this patiently with our people, with our fans, with everybody who identifies with us. So we have to be patient if we want to have success. That was something, honestly, I had to learn, because when you work in the music industry, everything is about fast and you know, you release records. If you work at a bigger label like I did, you release 3-4 records a month. So basically the pace of everything was very different. You know, being unique is something that most artists do not take time to basically develop their own uniqueness. And then to make a defined decision on how you want to build your career is how you want to grow. There's basically two ways. Either you team up with somebody that helps you build at the beginning, or you rely on your brand and you build yourself. Also, something that impressed me very much at the beginning is when he said, Simon, I say 9 times no and once yes, even though it's tempting, but if it's not fitting what I want to do and what I have in mind, and it doesn't fit on the value that I put on myself, then it's not worth doing it. That is also a key part why the band was so successful, because we started playing shows when intensively. I come back to that later. When we found the right ingredient to say, like, yes, now it's time to build the brand and to say more yes to things, because we had a very good team around. Then it's also key to find out when is the right moment to branch out, who is the right partner for you. What also made a big part at the beginning for Wardruna, which was impressive to me when I came in, is even though it's a very central thought of being identity and rooted, it was always very forward thinking. If you look at, he had, for example, the first Norwegian online store that really functioned, where he offered FLAC downloads way before everybody else did, and MP3s on his own store. Other examples were the first ones playing Red Rocks, well, first one doing extensive tours in this kind of genre. We have so many firsts that I will show you. What also makes this band very unique is the forward-thinking way how we do things and how we structure things. That was the beginning until like from 2003 to 2013, where I came in at 2010 and was helping from the label side to build this career and find the right partners on the media side that really were impressed by the work that I now did. What also comes to the success of the story is one song that sticks with everyone. And that was on the release in 2013, 𝗕𝗵𝗄𝗃 was the song 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁. No success comes with, with not having basically a hit song. But that song did something to so many people and still does. It's still the closing song of the set. This far, if you have seen the stream, you know that was also the last song on the stream. But this song did something. It moved people. It just touches you, and in the way it's written, the way the instrumentation is, and the way he writes the lyrics, the way he sings, and of course, the pictures I have here with 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁, that was something that helped, which was 2017 in Træna and 2018 in Bergen, which was a cooperation where they have been singing the song together. That shows you that a song can really travel on to inspire other artists to do a cooperation. So at the beginning, it was very helpful to have this one song that really stuck with a lot of people that we didn't think at the beginning would happen. We know when I heard it, it's a strong song, but that it does this until to this day was very important to me. So the first ingredient was building the career and having an identity. Second one is luckily to have a song that grabs on to many people. Then where I came in, especially heavily when we had the point of having the second record out, I came in more on the management side and see like, how can we build this career naturally with the fans that we have, without selling out or without building it too fast. And like I said, being patient about it, but build it so it makes sense in the future, and also asking ourselves, what do we want? There's the third album coming, so it was the third record in the trilogy. So it was very important to think about how do we do this, because the world also changed from 2009 to 2015. And that was one reason why I went to Norway, because the digitalization of this world was an important factor for me to start understanding how the world changed. So my bigger part that came into the game and around 2013 to 2015 was analyzing the world and seeing figures. So this is an example on how we analyze things and looked at figures, a very basic one. But the key points here are that we realized the music industry is stable since 2010 because everybody was panicking that the music industry goes away. But looking at the slide, you actually see from about 2010 on, now it's growing again. But in that moment in time, we saw, okay, it's a stable music industry. That means we have a future, basically. We also realized back then, because we had all the data from, especially from the Nordic countries, that back then that 1/3 already of the revenue of the industry was already digital. And we were one of the first ones realizing that, okay, we see with 𝗕𝗵𝗃 that the future and looking at pop industries around 2014, 2015, and the music consumption is basically going to be on songs, not albums anymore. Albums need to be released on physical and digital, especially when you have an artist like this, which is so strongly rooted in the physical market. But we realized that we had to do something in the digital way on how to expand the brand in the industry sense of things. And then we also saw vinyl having a big revival without the generation change. So there were a lot of younger people coming to the fold for Wardruna, going down to 14. So the core audience you will see afterwards is between 18 and 34. So that was something we realized really early. So we had to cater to them on how they want to be identified with the artist, and also how do they consume the music overall. we also had the luck back then that we found the right way of doing the production, and also that it was a good time for seeing bigger cases like Robin trying out to do different releases, or the big artists that went totally digital, to see that this sometimes work and sometimes don't. So we could learn from these kind of events, and that's what my job was, to find out the right way to release the third record with the biggest impact. So that period also made us aware that there is a new way of how you run a label coming to the plate. So the things are changing. It's the regular ways of how you run a label and how you do corporations. They're basically dying out. So we were thinking, like, what can we do and take advantage of it? At that time, due to 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁 and the other success, because you can't forget that Einar basically founded this genre. His creative innovation, the way he did, he was the first one doing it from the beginning, and he was the first one that people actually understood this music from, this kind of folk music that he does with the Nordic roots. So it was about that time where Vikings came into play from History Channel, which were very lucky that Einar got a big part in it. And so it was time for us to see, like, okay, this is a chance for us to team up with different partners to widen the brand with something that we can identify with. And also BMG, we came into touch with a publishing company. So as soon as you get sync, it makes sense to see if there is a good publishing partner that can assist you to take advantage actually of sync license you already did, so you can expand of it. That came together with our thinking that we had, how we can expand the brand. So you see, not everything can be planned. Sometimes you must be lucky that you have one song and a good album that really reaches a lot of people and also comes to ears to people that you wouldn't think of. So you can have chances that you wouldn't have thought of, which happened with Vikings. So that helped expand the brand a lot. And that led us to the point where it's like, okay, now we saw how the industry goes and we have expanded the brand. So let's make it even more stronger by founding our own label. Because our thinking was always, we want to have control of what we do. We want to find out on how we do things even deeper. And the way to do this is a label, because usually you don't get access to data from a label. And the other thought that came into it is like, we want to find a platform that represents Wardruna and other artists in a way that they can identify with, and that delivers us a platform to do things that we haven't done before. So that's why before we founded, or we put out the Wardruna record and the first enslaved reissue, we founded By Norse, which is a cultural entity, which has basically 3 units combining it in its company, which is music, events, and booking, and specialities. So we did a beer. I'm not going into that, but that beer was very crucial in building into other markets. So what I want to get into here is, after we founded By Norse, for us, it became very crucial to have this data mining system behind us. So for the first time, we could actually look into, number 1 is physical reporting, and number 2 is how digital actually works from a label perspective. So we started understanding, not only from our own profiles and from our own investigation on our channels, being it YouTube, Spotify, or whatever, we also started to understand from behind the scene what actually the record industry needs and how this works to put out the record, and what we need to do to activate this even more. So for us, that was a good point in time to have the insight in that when it comes to releasing music. And the second part was, we were thinking on how can we expand the brand by inviting other people to our fold that were fans already. Speaking of media, for example. So what we did before we released the record in March 2016, and with the launch of By Norse itself, we made different events. And one of the ones that was the biggest one was in London, where we had a 2 to 3 day showcase, where we had 𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗁, Wardruna's 𝗕𝗄𝗄𝗄, which is the band from 𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗁 and Einar Selvik performing, and also made a showcase in New York and one in Oslo. And those were very successful. And we not only had music there, but we also had Christian 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁𝗀, for example, he was exposing his art there, and we had a talk at the embassy how we can widen and what this means, this music or this movement we have here for the world, and how much it touches souls in the US and all over the world. So these events for us were the kickoff to broaden and to invite other people to understand what we're doing here by experiencing Wardruna life, and also the key players within Wardruna, because 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁𝗀, me and Ina, were running By Norse, and it's a tight-knit family, like I said from the beginning. So it was always important to us that people understand that there is human beings behind, and that we do this out of passion, and we love what we do here. And for us, it's important to invite other people to what we do. So the key point here was also, when you look at the posters, we always had high-level media joining us, being it Noisy, which was very big in 2016 and still is in the US, or Metal Hammer UK, which supports us to this day. So including the media to these events for us was a big thing, and also a thank you at this point to all the media, to tell, to show them that we're very thankful for what they did for us and how they helped expanding the brand to that point. So at that point, we had events that we could do ourselves. We had the music in our hands. We had branched out with the music to publishing worthy medias, speaking of sync, and we had booking together with AISAmusic, of course, because at that point, that event was organized by us. I was the leading person in all these events to organize them, if New York or London. I was basically doing the work there, and that was the point where we decided to also do our own booking. So under the brand of Wardruna, I did all the booking that was forthcoming at this period, because we started out with the event and we saw it works really well. So why not doing that ourselves too and keep it in the family? Because I was the one basically most understanding what Ina and Wardruna and also the crew around needs at that time to make a good show. So now that we have everything out of one hand, we started working on the third album, the trilogy album, where we went even a little bit deeper into the branding and how can we do this better. So from all the data that we know, that we worked on the last past years, how can we do this a little better? And we did for the first time a different strategy where we released single songs, 2 singles actually before the album, with their own identity before the album actually came out. And then on top of that, we branched out. We found out that meanwhile, the world is a very diverse place. So instead of having one online shop worldwide, which came out of Norway, we decided we need to have 2 things. We need to branch out with our own D2C look to the US and to Europe. So we need to have a web shop that is centralized in Europe and one in the US, so it's easier for fans to access to it. And also in the digital department, which I come to later, we need to have a digital strategy that caters towards the people that are grown up digitally, like we had already in the Nordic countries, especially Norway and Sweden. So what we did, we went into more branding. We did different physical products, and we divided them by stores. So certain things were only available in the store in the US, and certain things only available in the EU. And then we also had for the regular stores a different physical product. This strategy worked really, really well. And we could see that a lot of people started identifying with it. And we could also see that it was easier, especially the American market has been growing so much due to Vikings, mainly, that the traffic in the US shop immediately was spiking. So it was a very good decision to widen the brand in a smart way when it was time to do so. You must remember that was beginning of 2016. So it was still early on for this kind of business, if you think about it. I mean, there were online stores, but compared to today, it was a different day and age. That was how we branched out before we launched the record, basically. And then we had a digital department. It was the first time we actually decided. I have to give a lot of credits again to Ina, because he was the one coming like, man, I see on YouTube, you know, YouTube, that is the thing. People like visuals, and that's going to be the thing forward. And I couldn't agree more. So he had a strong reason for the song Rido, which we all said this is a fantastic song from the third album. So we released this with the single as a video, and it did really well. And it was for the first time that we did digital teasers, which I want to play here quickly. This was something like this. So as you can see, this was early 2016, where we started doing these teasers and having videos out, and also starting collaborations with History Channel. We were very lucky back then, and the music was prominently featured in Vikings. So they were very open to share the video, for example, on their channels. We had good advertising going on in magazines and also online partnerships. So all that was the first time we did an extensive partnership with all the ones that we basically built up with the events and had as partners before, which led us to a marketing campaign for this album that really helped pushing this album to a different level. And of course, during that time, Einar became more involved into Vikings. So he was not only doing the music, he was also becoming an actor in season 3, where he performed music live on the show, and also had music synced, of course, which one of the famous one is the Snake Pit poetry, of course, where Ragnar Lothbrok is thrown into the pit of snakes. That is still a famous song by people, but that happened at the same time, basically, as this album campaign came out. And of course, it really helped for fans to get into it. So that's also how we timed the album a little bit. So timing is something that is very sensitive on how you release an album and how you release music. If you have a chance to work it together with an outlet that, you know, that brings so many different fans to it, it makes sense to time it well. So if there is something happening around the TV show that you sometimes time your own singles or release a little bit in the same kind of vein and the same time frame. That's what we did. So at the same time, we saw that the demand was really high for Wardruna to be seen live. And before that, before 2016, the first really bigger tour, which was the Ragnarok tour in fall 2016, there were only selected shows on festivals, on showcases. Really didn't play a lot live, but we saw now that with a growing fan base, it is at the point where we can say like, okay, we can say more times yes than no. And also what made us feel very safe is at this point that the network of people we had that were booking shows and the interest were people that we really trust, and we still work with them to this day, all of them basically. Except some, of course, but mostly 80% of them, they're still with us. That was we basically enlarged the family with inviting promoters worldwide to help us, and booking agents help us, especially in the US, to widen the brand. So we got the attention of bigger festivals like Hellfest, where we headlined the stage. All the shows that we did leading up to 2019, to the biggest tour we did, they were all sold out by the end of the day, except for 1 or 2 shows. I will show it by the end when we get into the figures, but nearly 100% of the shows are sold out when we do Wardruna shows. All the shows have been booked by us, like I said. So we prepared the shows, we worked the shows, we coincided it with whatever happened on TV, whatever happened, we did with the label. If there's a reissue going on with the old label, whatever there was, we started to doing these shows so we could widen the brand on a personal level too, because we saw that with the events that we did, that the interaction between the band and the audience was very, very strong. So it made sense not only to grow on the side of releases and on the side of the brand, but also on a personal interaction. So with all these tours, when we started the first tour, for example, we had signing sessions with the fans after the shows. Of course, it was very exhausting for the band and for all of us, but it did something with the fans that we really, really liked, and that we had to, yeah, it was magic by the end of the day. So that was the fourth part of the success, that it also worked live. Yeah. In 2018, during the touring cycle, Einar had really brilliant idea of putting out a skaldic record. So he interpreted songs, various songs, in a very basic, very honest way. It's a very touching record. It's very different from the other Wardruna record, because it's very stripped down, very basic. And one of the songs on there was also a song that touched many, many souls, which was 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁. That was also used in Vikings, as you can see. And as you see on the plays on the song alone, it has nearly 30 million plays. And it's also a central song still in the set of Wardruna when Wardruna plays live. The video itself was also done with the same people again that did Ridå. And they understood how to weave a story that is 6 minutes long with one person performing one song as a centerpiece. And we included the wolf, 𝗕ø𝗵𝗄, which became a central person down the line, which was a fantastic video. Nobody has done this before. It's again a first, how we did the videos, and especially including such a unique animal into the video. So whoever who has not seen the video should just take a look. It's a breathtaking story that has been told, which was grown on the soil from the idea of Einar together with the team. So not much I had to give to this, except for saying, wow, this is amazing. Because yeah, they were very gifted and creative people working on this song. So again, this was a lucky coincidence that this song on this record helped a lot to promote the Wardruna brand overall. And then 2019, I have to mention two key moments, because when we came to the point when we were touring so much and we had successful tours and the records did well, and we could see overall that there's something in the air that the band could potentially reach to really, really big level. That's where the interest came from major players. The first time we sat together with a major player, which was Sony, was on March 9th, 2019. We had interest before, but the person or several persons that approached us from Sony were actually the ones, I have to say, which understood what Wardruna was about. We could see that they followed the band, that they understand what the brand is about and how patiently we built the brand, and what this needs to convert over to a more commercial audience. So for us, this was a kickoff to a discussion that led into the work that we have today. And the second one is, at the same weekend, we released tickets for a Nordic night, which is a new project we're starting, which is basically a prolonging of the By Norse events. We started that with a show at Red Rocks, and you must understand that at that point we did 2 tours in the US, which were 5 or 6 days on the West Coast and 5 or 6 days on the East Coast. So Einar and me were just sitting there, and he said, like, I want to play this venue. And I was like, well, let's do it. Even though, there is 9,000 people in this venue that fit in, we're like, okay, this is a big step for us, and we did it, and yeah, it was a big success. It was very, very close to sold out, and again, we were the first ones doing this, leading the path in that kind of genre for this, and it was a big success, and it was also a moment where we cemented the work together with our American agent, where we felt, okay, this is really the good way forward with our agent, and he understands what we want to do. So we started expanding our family with a very great agent that we worked together before in the US, that we now knew he's the right person to do this. A great booking agency, and also we started conversations with lovely people at Sony, which made us feel great that they understand the vision of what we want to do. That's why these moments for me in 2019 were very key to this day. That led us to, you know, the overall success story of the third record, which was the first record actually, which was on the Billboard's World Music Charts. They do not exist in that form anymore today, but back then they were called World Music Charts, and we were in the US and Canada #1. And you could clearly see that that was the impact on how we set up the brand, how closer we got to the audience. The TV series came very heavily into play. We toured a lot, so we could see that this you know, came to play with all the results that we had with this record. And by the end of the day, all the facts that you see here, I won't just read them down, are the ones that are accumulated success coming out of, you know, by the end of 2019 of hard work for Einar for 16 years and for him and me together starting vaguely at 2010. So it was a long way to come only to this point to see like, okay, we reached something that is very unique, and we paved the path for a lot of people in this genre and in this music to do something great, which we're very thankful for. And then we teamed up with Sony Music. As you can see, it took us half a year to discuss how to do this and how do we work together with Sony Music so it makes sense for us to keep this tight-knit family, and also to keep most of the things that we want to keep for us with us, but making it worthwhile for Sony to come on board and make a good team for us, also starting to understand what Sony can bring to the plate that we can do. And that was actually quite a lot. I was very surprised by the end of the day, and it's a big compliment to the Sony people, and whatever comes on from here on is a fantastic cooperation that led us to release the new album, which we're coming to next, on a worldwide basis in a cooperation between By Norse and Sony Music. At the same time, in 2019, Einar was asked to do the co-composing and doing the soundtrack for Assassin's Creed New Game Valhalla. Assassin's Creed, you might know, is probably the biggest game on this planet. And for him to be asked to do this game by the end of 2019, you see everything came together by 2019. All the work we did basically accumulated in 2 months by 2019. That was very impressive for us to see. So that was something we had to keep hush-hush. So Einar started working on this by end of 2019, and then we knew it's a lot of work to finish a new album and to do the soundtrack for such a game, which was released last fall. But this was something that made us very, very excited and humbled us a lot that, you know, that we did this to finally reach basically one of the biggest games on this planet with the music. And then by the end of 2019, this for us was the moment where everything came together. When we've entered the tour in 2019 in Paris, there were over 3,000 people. It was sold out. It was a magical moment because, as you can see on the left, we had a wonderful time with the Sony team. They were there with over 30 people. Dirk was there too, where we met a lot of Sony people worldwide, and we could feel the enthusiasm. And it was also for us nice to show and for them to enjoy Wardruna live and understand why 3,000 people in Paris come to see Wardruna. And that's why we celebrated that night. And I will never forget that. It was a nice cake by our promoter, and it was such a good time. And that was also the time in Europe where I stepped back doing the booking, and we had somebody else coming in, 𝗕𝗶𝗁𝗀 Agency, which is a very big agency, which, yeah, especially in our genre, they do Slipknot and other very, very big bands. But we had a long talk with them too. It was the same as with Sony. It took nearly a year until we made a decision. But the guy, Dominic, his name is, we're working with a 𝗕𝗶𝗁𝗀 right now, and his partner owning 𝗕𝗶𝗁𝗀 Agency. They were they were understanding what we want, and it's fantastic to have them on board and to have the team now with Sony, 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗁, and the HEI and all the other agents and promoters. So we came to the point in 2019 where we had enlarged our family with people that we trust and that we see have the same vision and can help us to go where we are. So by the end of 2019, we were so ready to go into the next period of what we did, because we built everything. We had analyzed the data. We knew exactly what we want to do. We had built visuals and we had wonderful players. So we went into the cycle for 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁, and we slated the release for June 4th because nobody knew what was coming. So right after the tour, of course, it was, I have to say, it was very exhausting for Einar and to write all this music and to write for the album. But when I heard the music for the album, I was just blown away because it was just next level music for what he did before. And we were excited. So we had a release date for June 4 set because that made sense with the plans that we had, because we started the pre-order in February. And again, we came back, he went to Finland together with Lindy to film the first video, and we wanted to have 𝗕𝗄 in there again because we wanted to make the connection to what we did before, but also show something new. So the pre-order start was going out at that time with video. I mean, Dirk will explain more about this in a bit, which I give the word to you now.
Thank you, Simon. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, for us at Sony Music was the biggest challenge the way of communicating Wardruna, because of everything what Simon already explained, that everything was very built up very constantly in a communication way where a huge fan base was behind Wardruna. Our target was to extend this target group and bring Wardruna to new minds of people outside, and that was the biggest challenge for us. So challenging the artist on one side, following our ideas and not to communicate a sellout in a way on one side, and keep in line the communication which Wardruna was already in the past. And on the other side, for us, it was very important to reach out to new fans. And the main plan behind it was, first of all, set up key visuals, which we are using for a digital campaign, which were based on the video, and start the pre-order of the new album, reach out to the existing fan base and reach out to new people outside. And the main idea behind it was to combine everything with the only European continental show planned in 2020, 1 week after the release of the album. And we, as we knew that a lot of fans of Wardruna were used to buy their products directly from the band, from their shops worldwide, we decided to set up again an own Wardruna shop, which is chart relevant for Germany, so that all the sales are going into the charts, and that we have a system behind it which helps us to reach out to a high chart level. And we decided to sell bundles there, which you can see on the chart. And the main bundle idea was the ticket bundle. So sell the unique release show in the amphitheater in 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 in Germany as the alone standing release show on the continent, and also combined with other like shirts, or you can, it was possible to skip things. So you could buy a vinyl, a t-shirt, a badge, and a ticket. So whatever you wanted to buy, you could buy. And that worked perfectly out for us, because we had initially great pre-order numbers, and we saw that the whole campaign, which we were planning beside with a digital campaign, with the visuals of the video, and that everything totally worked out for us. And as everybody know, then we've been interrupted very hard in March in this year. And after kicking off the campaign, everything was shut down with Corona, and we had to decide on a new strategy in the end, due to the fact that after a few weeks, it was clear that we will not be able to play the show, and also it would be the right decision to keep the release date, which we were planning. So with Simon and Einar together, we decided to move the release date to beginning of 2021 due to the COVID situation. And connected with this, you also already saw the chart, all the touring which were planned around this release date needed to be postponed and put to from 2020 to 2021, or now in parts to 2022 already. Yeah, this hardly interrupted our whole campaign, and we decided to stop the album cycle at this point, pre-order cycle. So the pre-orders were still up, running, so people could order, but we saw that nobody pre-ordered, nobody ordered tickets. So we decided to step away from the album cycle in a way and work with a new track, which wasn't on the album cycle, on the album itself. It was called 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁, and the idea came from Einar directly, as well as it is kind of like the theme behind it is the healing mountain, and everybody at that time of the year was, I think, absolutely looking for getting healed and getting away from COVID. So we decided to release this single track as an outstanding standalone track, just to keep Wardruna in the mind of the fans and of the people outside which are following them, and decided to step back into the original album cycle by October 2020, and then get again the pre-orders running for the release in January 21 this year.
Yep. Let me jump in here quickly. I want to say something to 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁. Sorry, Dirk.
No problem, go ahead.
As you can see on the plays, this song came at the right time because we released it at the same release date as the original album. So that was important for us, that the fans that expected to have the album get something on the same date as the album came out. And that worked really well. As you can see, the plays on YouTube are massive. It's probably in the short time the most successful song, and also an outstanding video. So everything fitted together really well. So it was a good decision to do that. And that also showed us with the stats. We looked into stats a lot with this song to see what we need to do further in the future, and whom to cater to. So again, data for me is, I love data. And then, yeah, October 16th, we started repushing the campaign.
Yes. So here with the learning from 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁, and with all the pre-orders we already could gain in this time of the year, we found out that the most important thing for people outside is to get more information about what is Wardruna and what is behind Wardruna and what is the story behind it. And we decided to start with the 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁 as the second single and the album title track to restart the pre-order again. And we also decided to launch 6 episodes which we've recorded during the COVID period in this in the summer, where Einar could explain in very short sections, movie sections, what is Wardruna about, what Wardruna is standing for, and explain the message of what he is actually, what he wants to tell the people, and how he wants the people to see Wardruna. And with all this together, and with our promotional setup in terms of a full-fledged press promotion, online promotion, radio promotion, digital campaign behind it, we were able to release the album end of January and chart the album in Germany on #2. And also this whole campaign was transported into our international teams. And here I think it's Margit, which can explain some more about it, due to the fact that she's responsible for all the international stuff at Sony Music for Wardruna.
Hi, Margit.
Yes, I've been working closely with, hello. Hope you can hear me okay. My internet connection is a bit unstable. That's why I've been moving around a bit. But I've been working closely with my colleague 𝗵𝗺 on this campaign for 𝗕𝗵𝗄𝗁. And I would say that we had a really good groundwork for Wardruna's international position. And that gave us a really good, as I said, starting point to work with our key markets. That was the Nordics, Benelux, France, Russia, UK, Poland, and Canada, and Italy, in addition to GSA. And to truly understand the magic of Wardruna, you really need to see their live performance. And as Simon explained, we then brought a ton of our international affiliates to their show in our major starting point for the international campaign. Then COVID came, and we just really needed to rethink everything, basically. So the main challenge for us was basically how to engage all of our project managers across the world, and for them to really make waves in their markets and truly understand and feel what Wardruna was about, because a lot of our strategy was building around the tour and doing in-market promo in all of these markets that the band was going to. So now we started having really long and in-depth conversations with all of our markets, and really deep diving into what Wardruna was about for all of them, and explaining this universal approach that they have to nature and history, Norse culture, spirituality, and so on, and just coming up with a bunch of ideas on what we could do locally in all of these markets and truly engage them. And press was really important to us to get really good coverage in all of the press outlets, in addition to just focusing on streams, sales, and building onto the existing fan base that Wardruna already had. And the way we did that was through all of these powerful visuals. Sorry?
You want me to play the video when you talk about fans and...
I don't think we have, I think we're running a bit out of time, so we can just leave the video.
Okay.
For Wardruna and spreading these internationally. Sorry?
I think you
go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I turned my camera off. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
I'll just continue then. Okay, good. I'll just turn my camera off because of my internet connection. So basically, the powerful visuals was really, really helpful in telling the story of Wardruna and just spreading these internationally, both the videos and social snippets. And also Wardruna and Einar's really strong social presence was a key element to building in all of these markets. And also in December 2020, we did a big virtual album presentation for all of our international partners that was really successful. And it was hosted by Alexander Milas from 𝗕𝗵𝗄, together with Einar, and we had about 150 streaming and media partners from around the world present. And it was a really, really good attendance, where we got the global head of metal from Spotify attending, the host of BBC Radio 1 Rock Show, the History Channel, and just a bunch of different media outlets from all of our key markets.
And that really, I think that really helped with the launch of the album. In addition to that, we did a pre-save and pre-ad campaign that Dirk also mentioned, where fans could win the Q&A session. That was really successful, and all this kind of led up to the album launch, as well as the live event that I'm sure Simon will go more into. And basically, the 𝗕𝗏𝗏 album had a massive international launch and charted at #1 on the album charts in Austria, 2 in Germany and Switzerland, 11 in Norway, and 50 in a handful of other countries, and really made waves across the globe, and has ended up being one of the most successful albums that the band has ever released. And as you can see on the screen, the press pickups and reviews was absolutely outstanding. And the album was considered magical, hypnotic, and I mean, the press really saw how the music just reconnected with nature and highlighted that. And also the Norwegian major dailies 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁 and 𝗕𝗶𝗿𝗁 gave the record 5 out of 6, which is just the tip of the iceberg for a list of further fantastic write-ups that we got from The Independent, the Financial Times, and also just basically from major local outlets in all of our key markets. And then back to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a massive campaign. I have to say, it was in a level that we haven't seen before, and I'm very thankful we could, we were the ones chosen to be part of this. And yeah, like you said, it was a massive success. But what I also like to mention here is, with most countries, we stayed in the charts. We were not just in there and just out. So in a lot of countries, we stayed in there for several weeks, and the upselling perspective of the album is really big. So I'm very happy how this all turned out, and the massive success. If you remember the slide we showed about the success for Ragnarok, this is a different level, and it wouldn't have been possible without the help of Sony Music. I know we're nearly at the end, Kathrine. We have 2 minutes left. Is it over strictly at 11?
You can go on a little bit more. There's no questions by now. So if anyone has any questions, you should put it in the Q&A, and you can keep on talking a little bit, Simon.
All right, then I take the liberty. I'm sorry that it takes a little bit longer, but it was important for me to tell the history and the build-up so people understand that this is very different. So from that point on, with the success that we had with a wonderful team, we came to the next step. Is like, how can we go on from here? And COVID is going on, and what can we do to make people understand or feel the release a little bit more? So we went into doing this virtual release show that was done again on our own shop in our own environment. So it was a very interesting experience to set this up. It was a novelty within the whole genre. It was a unique and innovative design done by the crew and by Einar. It was a fantastic event, and yeah, we had over 8,400 hours viewing time in 48 hours. It was thousands of tickets sold, and it was a very big success by the end of the day. So this is the latest thing we did by the end of March to keep up the name Wardruna and to build on it. What went hand in hand with it was unique merch line, and everything was unique. I have the postcard set is unique. Everything was very unique. So this was also a success because it was all related to the album. As you can see, the 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗺 and design, everything is related to the album. So it was really a virtual release show. The last thing we did was Assassin's Creed, because that game, as I mentioned, came out by the last year in November, and the soundtrack was released in different steps digitally in December, and also now in March. So shortly after the release, Einar Selvik gave out this Assassin's Creed album. It comes out in June, and this special edition that we had here is sold out within 6 hours in our shop. It was several hundreds. So we could see that the demand is still growing and growing for what Einar does. And this also helped because we saw a lot of game people swap over to Wardruna and vice versa. So the impact of having these two coexist beside of it, including the last season of Vikings, was a massive driver for the success for for Wardruna and 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗁𝗀, which we still keep on pushing. And I wanted to give this as last words. This was Summer Breeze. There were over 35,000 people at our show, so it was one of a massive event that we headlined. And yeah, I like Einar's words as a thank you to everyone for listening, and especially Nomex and Kathrine and Caroline and Nina for having us. If there's any questions, just put in FAQ. We can probably answer them at a later point.
There is a question from 𝗏𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗏. I don't know if you want to read it yourself. It's a long question. Can you see the Q&A?
Nope.
Okay, I can read it. So 𝗏𝗂𝗏𝗏 is the Polish promoter of Wardruna. From my perspective, what is also vital for the success of the band is the fact that it is a project so well and genuinely anchored in research. This is quite unprecedented. Many bands claim to base their music on history. Few do it from a comprehensive academic angle. We have done a number of successful meetings with Einar Selvik and the Jagiellonian University in Krakow with academics and students from the Nordic studies. This aspect of Wardruna music allows me as a promoter to partner with various cultural hubs and institutions, as well as universities, to build much more extensive promotion campaigns beyond the original fan base. One does not get that with other bands. Simon, could you maybe comment more on the interconnection with Wardruna and the academia?
Yeah, I absolutely understand Michael's question. It was on a slide that I went over fast, but that's exactly a very important point in Wardruna where it comes to identity. Einar is an academic, not in the regular sense, but he teaches in several universities and about his views and about his knowledge and also about instruments, because he knows what he's talking about, and everything that is Wardruna is rooted in this knowledge. A lot of bands, there's a lot of bands around now that they're just taking the imagery and trying to be what they are. But that's the difference with Wardruna. And that's the difference where we cater to fans also at universities. So there's a lot of people that come to shows or speak to us that are very educated people and very knowledgeable people in this Nordic history. And that is a big part for the success of Wardruna too. And a very genuine way of how Einar is. He is really living what he does. And that's what I mentioned at the beginning with identity and why he stopped doing anything else. He was born for this, and he lives and breathes it every day. And he studies it every day, and he does his things to learn more. And yeah, he's a source of knowledge for a lot of people in this genre.
Yes, thank you so much, Simon, Margit, and Dirk. It was great to have you with us, and thanks for sharing the story behind Wardruna. And thank you everyone for watching, and hope to see you next Thursday with the next morning coffee. So
thank you very much for having us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.